Picture this. You're lying in a coffin. Your friends and family gather around, whispering the same praise. He was such a nice person, always did what was expected. And if you could speak from that box, you'd scream, "I never lived my own life." That is the price of their approval. You think you're free, but every time you ask, "What will they think?" you're building your own cage. When you delete that post 5 times because you fear judgment, when you say yes to something you hate just to avoid conflict, when you wear that mask so they'll like you, you're not being kind. You're bowing. You've become an actor in a play you didn't even audition for. And the cruel part? The audience you're performing for isn't even watching. You think this game wins you love, safety, respect. It doesn't. It wins you a lifetime of anxiety and a hollow soul. And when the curtain falls, your whole life will read like that eulogy. Nice, predictable, approved, but never free. This is what Nietzsche called slavery. Not chains of iron, but chains of opinion. Every like, every nod, every silent expectation, you carry them like weights around your neck. And the cruelest part? You thought those chains were love. You thought those nods were safety. But they weren't. They were the bars of your prison. And if that scares you, good, because fear is the sign you're waking up. Because once you see the cage, you can find the key. And Nietzsche gave us that key. The moment you stop living for their gaze, you begin living for your truth. A week from now, you could look back and feel lighter. Not because they finally approved, but because for once, you didn't need them to. That is the birth of your true self. So, tell me, are you ready to stop being a slave? Or will you keep bowing? You want freedom. I can feel it. But wanting it isn't enough. Because freedom isn't just knowing you're chained, it's tearing the chains off. And that's the part no one talks about. Because here's the truth no one told you. You love those chains. You love the comfort they give. The nod of approval. The smile that says, "Good job." You think that's freedom? It feels safe, doesn't it? Safe to keep everyone happy. Safe to avoid their judgment. But safe is a lie. Safe is the prettiest word for a cage. Let's be real. You've spent years learning how to play this game. You know the rules by heart. Don't say what you really think. It might upset them. Don't wear what you love. They might laugh. Don't choose that dream. It's unrealistic. So, you shrink. You bend. You bow. And every time you do, you whisper to yourself, "It's fine. It's not a big deal." But deep down, it is, because every small bow turns into a lifetime of kneeling. And this is the hidden truth. You think caring about their opinion makes you strong, polite, successful. It doesn't. It makes you obedient. You think it wins you love. It doesn't. It wins you control. From them, over you. Let me show you how deep this runs. Imagine this. You post a picture online. The likes start rolling in. Feels good, right? Now imagine the opposite. Silence. No likes. No comments. Suddenly your mood crashes. Your mind screams, "Delete it." That's not freedom. That's addiction. Approval isn't your friend. It's your drug dealer. And you wonder why you feel anxious all the time? Why you second guess every word, every move? Because you built your life on rented values. Every decision you make is a silent question. Will they like this? And when the answer is no, you feel like you're nothing. You've been taught to believe this is normal, that this is how society works. But here's the flip. It's not normal. It's slavery. Modern-day slavery. Not chains of iron. Not whips. But invisible ropes made of opinions, likes, expectations. and you carry them everywhere. At work, in your friendships, in your own head. And the worst part? You thought those ropes were love. You thought they were respect. But they were bars. Bars of a cage you built with their hands. That's why you're tired. That's why you feel hollow after doing everything right. Because right wasn't yours. It was theirs. And the more you obey, the more you disappear. So here's the question that matters. When did you stop living for yourself? When did you decide their voices were louder than your own? Was it when your parents frowned at your dream? When your friends laughed at your idea? When strangers online told you what was acceptable? You didn't notice it then, but every little compromise chained you tighter. Until now. Until this moment, where you finally see the truth. And it hurts, doesn't it? It should. Because pain is the price of waking up. But stay with me. Because in the next breath, we're going to rip those chains apart. Not slowly. Not someday. Today. And Nietzsche is going to show you how. And for that, we need to go back, over 100 years, to a man who saw this sickness before it had a name. Nietzsche. He called it slave morality. Not the morality of criminals or villains. No. The morality of good people. Obedient people. People who never broke the rules. Who never dared to offend. Who bowed so often they forgot how to stand. Sound familiar? Here's what he saw. When you live for other people's approval, you become a slave. Not a slave with chains of iron, but with something worse. Chains of opinion. You don't need a master with a whip. Your master lives in your head now. Every time you think, what will they think? That's the crack of the whip. Every time you trade your truth for their smile, that's the bow of a slave. And Nietzsche didn't stop there. He said the world is full of two kinds of people, masters and slaves. Masters create their own values. They decide what matters and live by it, even if the world hates them for it. Slaves borrow their values. They need someone else to tell them what's right, what's acceptable, what's safe. Which one are you? Be honest, because here's the painful part. Most people never leave the slave pen. They're terrified of what freedom feels like. Because freedom is lonely at first. Freedom doesn't clap for you. Freedom doesn't give you likes and comments. Freedom demands something scarier. That you approve of yourself. That's the test. And most fail it. But if you're still here, still listening, I believe you're not like most people. Because the fact that this hits you, that means there's a part of you that's sick of bowing. And Nietzsche gave us the blueprint to rise above this. To step into what he called the master. Not a tyrant. Not a bully. A creator. A builder of his own values. And that's what we're about to explore. Why you bow. Why it's so hard to stop. And how to break the pattern before it buries you alive. From the very start, you were taught this game. As a child, you learned the rule. Approval equals love. When you pleased them, they smiled. When you obeyed, they hugged you. And when you didn't, you felt it. The cold distance, the frown, the sharp word. You were too young to understand, so you drew the only conclusion a child can. If I want to be safe, I must be what they want. That was the birth of your mask. And over the years, you wore it so often, it started to feel like your face. And then came the world. School, friends, social media. You learn new rules. Blend in. Don't stand out too much. Say what they want to hear. Dress how they expect. Be agreeable. Be likable. Be acceptable. So you became an expert at performing, an expert at disappearing. And here's the cruel twist. Your brain thinks this is survival. Because once upon a time, rejection meant death. In ancient tribes, if they didn't accept you, you died alone in the wild. That fear is still inside you. It whispers, please them, or you won't survive. That's why your heart races when someone frowns. That's why you rewrite that text 10 times before hitting send. That's why silence on your post feels like a punch in the gut. It's not logic. It's biology. But biology doesn't care about your soul. It only cares about safety, even if it means keeping you small, quiet, invisible. And then add ego into the mix. Ego wants to look good. It feeds on praise. It craves attention like oxygen. It whispers, if they like you, you matter. If they don't, you're nothing. And you believe it. So you keep dancing, keep bowing, keep polishing the mask. Until one day, you wake up hollow, exhausted, wondering why life feels fake. That's the cost of this pattern. You trade your truth for applause. And applause is cheap. It never lasts. So you chase it again and again, like a junkie begging for the next hit. But here's the part that should shake you. They don't even care. The people you're trying to impress, they're too busy worrying about what you think of them. So here you are, two actors, booing to each other, trapped in the same play. A play that no one actually enjoys. And deep down, you know this. You feel it every time you go home and collapse into bed, tired from pretending. You feel it every time you say yes, when you wanted to scream no. You feel it every time you scroll through likes, hoping for a number that will make you feel worthy. And still, you keep bowing. Because breaking free feels terrifying. Because freedom means stepping into a world where the only approval that matters is yours. And you don't trust yourself yet. That's why this is so hard. But here's the truth Nietzsche wanted you to see. You cannot become who you are until you kill the need to please. You cannot live your own life while performing for theirs. You cannot find your voice while speaking their script. You feel that, don't you? Those words hit because they're true. And now you're wondering, if not their script, then what? How do I live without this mask I've worn my whole life? Here's the answer Nietzsche gave us, one that most people will never accept because it's brutal. He said, stop living like a slave. Start living like a master. Now don't mistake this. He didn't mean dominate people. He didn't mean control them. He meant master yourself. He meant become the kind of person who creates their own values, their own code. Instead of bowing to the borrowed ones handed to you by parents, friends, bosses, strangers, the master doesn't ask, what will they think? The master asks, what do I think? What do I want? What matters to me? And then, he lives it, even if the world hates him for it. That's freedom, not applause, not approval. Freedom is when their silence doesn't shake you. Freedom is when their judgment feels like wind. You feel it, but it can't move you. And here's the hard truth. This shift will cost you. It will cost you their comfort. It will cost you their easy smiles, their nods, their fake respect. But what you gain the one thing you've been starving for, yourself. So, how do you start? Not tomorrow. Not next year. Now, here's how. Step 1. Catch the question. Every time you hear that voice in your head, whisper, what will they think? Stop. Pause. And ask a better question. What do I think? What do I want? Because the first voice is the chain. The second is the key. Step 2. Practice tiny rebellions. Don't start with burning your whole life down. Start small. Say no when you mean no, even if your voice shakes. Post that photo without rewriting the caption 100 times. Wear what feels like you, not what looks safe. These tiny rebellions are cracks in the cage, and every crack lets in light. Step 3. Choose respect over applause. Here's the paradox Nietzsche knew. When you stop living for approval, people may leave, but the ones who stay, they respect you. Not because you pleased them, but because you had the courage to stand alone. And even if no one stays, you'll respect yourself. And that is worth more than 1,000,000 claps from the crowd. But let me warn you, this is not a quick fix. You've spent years training yourself to bow. It will take time to learn how to stand. You will feel guilt. You will feel fear. Your old self will beg you to put the mask back on. Don't listen. Because on the other side of that fear is something you've never tasted before. Power. Not power over them. Power over you. And when you taste it, you'll never trade it for their nods again. So tell me, are you willing to pay the price? Are you willing to feel the fear and still choose freedom? Because this is the moment. Right here. Right now. The chains are still on, but the lock is open. And the key? It's been in your hand all along. The only question left is, will you turn it? That key you've been holding, will you use it? Because if you do, everything changes. And I need you to hear this. Freedom isn't loud. It doesn't come with fireworks. It doesn't announce itself to the world. It begins quietly in one single choice. The choice to live by your truth, even when no one claps. And maybe right now, that sounds terrifying. Because you've lived your whole life with an audience. You've lived for their smiles, their likes, their nods. Without them, who are you? That question, the one that makes your chest tighten, is the door to your freedom. Because here's the secret they never told you. You were never meant to live in chains. You were never meant to measure your worth by their gaze. You were never meant to spend your life performing for people who won't even remember your name. So imagine this. 1 week from now, you wake up lighter. Not because they finally approved, but because, for the first time, you didn't need them to. You said no when you meant no. You spoke your truth, even when your voice shook. You stopped deleting yourself to fit their script. And you felt something you haven't felt in years. Peace. That's what this is really about. Not rebellion for the sake of rebellion, not arrogance, but peace. The kind that comes from living aligned with what you believe, not what they expect. And let me tell you something else. The day you choose this, the day you choose yourself, you will feel lonely. Not forever, but at first. Because when you stop bowing, some people will leave. They'll call you selfish, arrogant, different. Let them. Because here's the paradox Nietzsche understood. The moment you stop chasing approval, you become magnetic. The right people, the ones who value your truth, will find you. But even if they don't, you will still have the one relationship you've been starving for all along, the one with yourself. And that is enough, more than enough. Because once you belong to yourself, you'll never beg to belong anywhere else again. So, here's what I want you to do. Right now, not later. Close your eyes and picture the life you would live if no one was watching. What would you wear? What would you create? Who would you love? What would you say? That life, that self, that truth is waiting for you. And it's closer than you think. Because freedom doesn't happen someday. It happens in moments. Like this one. Right now. Where you decide, once and for all, to stop bowing. To stop letting their whispers write your story. To stop trading your soul for a smile. So I'll ask you one last time. Will you live for their gaze or your truth? Because this is it. The curtain is falling. The chains are loose. The key is in your hand. Turn it.